Yep, let's see. All right, we're good. Okay, I want to go back to the tenon. I totally agree with everything we've discussed on the tenon. I don't know how many tenon seminars I've been to, and we talk about when we put a tenon on, we don't want it to hit the back of the jaws.
Mhm.
Exactly, no matter what. But no one ever says you can make a tenon that does hit the back of the jaws. You take, before the pandemic, I was pretty much a production turner for myself, nothing like Cade, Scott, or Martin, but the fastest way I could do stuff. When I make Christmas trees, this tenon was about an inch long and it hit the back of the jaws. Maybe it wasn't that long. I left enough space when I got through turning this. All I had to do is part it off, sand it, and I was done. And like finials, if I've got a round piece of wood, I just slam it up to the back of the jaws and turn it. And I don't know, I've never had a problem with that unless I just got too wild and crazy. And I don't know if I'm causing controversy here or people disagree with that, but I've got a little, where is the share screen? Oh, there it is. Okay. This is Richard Raffner. He's doing a video on the bow gouges. And this is his take on that.
Now, I'm just going to get another foot on this, slightly deeper foot, and then we'll turn it around and have a look at the internal side. The half-inch nickel gouge going on its side into the corner, and then I pivot it on its nose and just move the tool back. And provided I've got a nice little corner in there where I've marked it with a pencil, the chuck jaws will snack into there, or the base here will go into the bottom of the chuck, and that will ensure the thing's running true. You don't need to have a flat surface at the top of the foot for face work anyway.
And so I don't know how many y'all agree
But
with
that's
that.
what that 90, but that union he's making with that 90 right there, that's what's seating against the top of the jaws.
No, it ain't.
Well, he also says that said there that his jaws will be gripping inside that little cavity he made right where those two surfaces come together.
Yeah, but it's
So
going to be at the back of the jaws. It's going to, square is going to be at the back of the jaws.
He did say that, you're right, but it doesn't look like it's deep enough to be buried in the back of the jaws. Because it's also talking about the top of his jaws are going to be in that little crack.
Okay, what is wrong with doing that?
Well, it's you can get away with that. I mean, I turn things where I hold it in the little where the inside bit of the jaws come together. You know what I'm saying? Like not the jaws themselves, but that little, like I don't know what it is. It's 3/4 of an inch diameter. I've turned things where I'm just holding it by that. But you can't if you turn a large thing that you could then you where you've got a lot of where the wood is exerting a lot of leverage on the tool, you get even the slightest bit of catch or whatever, and it's going to pop it out of the jaws.
What is the difference? And it's seated up right there on the face of the jaws, than at the back of them. The leverage pull is the same.
Yeah, but if it's seated up against the top of the face there. And if let's say you're using, are your jaws square or are they dovetailed?
Mine are square.
Okay, well that's a difference too, because like mine are dovetailed and they've got that little hook, the Nova jaws do.
Yeah.
And if they're grabbing on the inside of there, then it'll keep it in the jaws. But if you've got square jaws, then it's a different ball game.
I don't see how it is. If the taper's the same, if this is a 1/4 inch away from the face of them jaws and it's butted up on the back, I see no problem. That's just me, my opinion, my thing.
It also depends on the diameter of the bowl. The larger the diameter of the bowl, the more force on the outer rim, which would be more likely to give that leverage to pop it out of the chuck. But with a smaller diameter bowl and a larger tenon, you can be bottomed out and you don't have that leverage because the rim of your bowl is closer to the outer diameter of the rim of your tenon.
Well,
So
me,
it all depends on the application as well, but it can leverage it to pop it out depending on the catch or the presentation of the tool.
but I got 4-inch, 5-inch, and 6-inch jaws. I'm not going to use a little tenon on a big bowl.
Yeah, I know.
So,
So if you,
so maybe I'm
Right.
missing something. So let me just ask if I'm hearing it right. So are we saying what Richard is saying is to have the bottom of the tenon bottom out at the bottom of the chuck?
I'm saying that's okay. I don't see a problem with it. If they're
But yeah, but you can get away with that with a small piece. You can, certainly you can do it. I mean, we've all done it,
with
or most of us have done
I
it.
can't get by with it with 5-inch jaws on a bigger bow.
Yeah,
No,
you can.
I see what Wakeene is saying, and I think I've got to agree with him.
I just don't see a mechanical difference. People telling me that I've got to be shouldered up here because I knew guys with your jaws being shouldered up
Especially
there.
if it's
When
straight
their
jaw.
their jaws got messed up, they took them to the machine shop and had them face true with their chuck, so that this would be all true with the lathe, the center perpendicular off of it. But if this tenon was another 1/2 inch long or whatever, and to the back of that, I don't
Yeah.
see a problem myself.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Well,
And
think about
so
how.
I have to agree with that. So hold on, Matt. So if you've got, whether you got a dovetail or you got straight jaws, and you've got a perfectly flat tenon base that's going in flat against the bottom of the jaws, provided you're not doing anything to make a catch and force that tenon through, which would be improper,
Yeah.
you can get away with it.
then yeah, absolutely. Joaquin's absolutely right. It would work. And it would make no difference, even if you had, even with our air pillow, if you were to get a catch, that thing is still going to come out, and it's not going to be, it's either going to pop out of the chuck, it's going to break the tenon, or it's going to be out around one of those three options. So you're going to have the same three alternatives, whether it's seated flat against it or not.
But one of the things I've done to test this,
If that makes sense.
I've had a 3-inch diameter cylinder that had this on it. Then I had one that was straight, put them in the jaws and hit them with a hammer with great force, and didn't knock either one of them out. And just to prove myself, it's just, all I'm saying is that we tell people they have to do this, period. And I'm saying, no, you don't, if you know what you're doing,
Yeah, if you know
Well,
what you're
but see,
doing,
that's part of
I
the
wouldn't
difference there. I
recommend
mean,
beginner doing that.
That's the whole key. If you know what you're doing, I think Mr. Raffin is referring to people who are relatively new at turning, and he's trying to make them have success.
Mhm.
And so that this success is what he's concerned with, not the fact that, oh, sure, there's a lot of things you can get away with, and if you're an experienced turner, you can, but if you're not, you're going to have trouble.
Well, he's still old school. I mean, he doesn't use all fancy tools. He still uses scrapers. I mean,
Spindle gouge.
unbelievable.
Well, I picked up on
some of his techniques I love watching, and I've tried to imitate. Yeah, the way he used a spindle gouge on the inside of a bowl is really kind of extraordinary.
Man.
Well,
Yeah, but it's,
and then what's his reasoning for using the spindle gouge for bowl turning?
Well, it's
He's
totally,
faster.
No,
it's totally doable.
No, it's because it's a cheaper tool compared to a bowl gouge. It doesn't cost as much.
Yeah.
And he says
and
that every
that's
time
what
when
he
when
had
turns
sitting
the
on his
bowl.
rack. Yep.
and it's totally doable as long as you present it correctly, cut with the
presentation.
proper part of the tool and ride the bevel.
Yep.
But if you don't,
Exactly.
hold on.
Yeah, right.
With his stew, how many are up to what Cade can do with a stew? I mean,
And if you want to go that way with the skew, you could look at what Steve Jones does, that
Oh,
Wood
yeah.
Turner 21. He's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A wood turn.
What
I
I
just
would
wanted to
suggest,
throw
what I
that
would
out
su-
there,
what I
guys.
would suggest, Joaquin, what I would suggest is try to look at it from an engineering standpoint about where the fulcrums are, where things are where the forces are being applied. Okay. So if you've got it bottomed in the bottom of the jaws, and there's nothing holding it onto the face is not touching, okay?
Yeah.
If you pull that laterally, then it can pull off of the bottom of the chuck. Does that make sense?
Don't agree. I just told you I did
Oh.
that and hit it with a hammer, and they stayed, and I hit them pretty hard. And
Okay, well, I hear you. I hear you. I hear
I do
you.
not see the difference in the fulcrum point because it's a gap or not a gap. Just me.
Well, the point is if there's no gap and you get that same force, it's going to be pushing against the top of the jaws, and that top of the jaws and the rest of the jaws are locking it into the jaws. But if you have the gap, it doesn't have that same. Maybe it's an infinitesimal little bit of a difference. Maybe it's just a little bit more riskier to do it the way you're suggesting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, and did you
But
smack
gives
it
you
with a
an
hammer when
added
it was turning?
lever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you smack it when it was turning or when it was sitting still? That's going to make it.
I
The
do-
torsion's going to make a big difference too.
But I started to have that ready to dimple that tonight. But I just didn't have. And but we always talk about this, but we don't tell the other, that you can.
Yeah.
But maybe everybody's afraid to do it that way or taught different. And being self-taught, I probably didn't know better, just did it.
No, but
Well,
you got to.
I do know. I've been
develop-
teaching a lot of beginners, and I do know that if you don't get that flush on top of the jaws, it comes out of the chuck awful easy.
Mm.
Yeah, I know when I started out, I was trying to get them so that the base of my tenon was against the bottom of the chuck, as well as on the face of the jaw. And I know I threw an awful lot of balls in those early days that I don't do. I rarely throw one now, and I have an air gap at the bottom always now. So I don't know. I'm saying I don't know.
I do on my bows.
Mhm.
All this other stuff, finials and trees and stuff, they go to the bottom and move on,
Right.
Well, and it's, I mean, I certainly do that too, Joaquin. I mean, I got a round piece of wood and I'm just sticking it in the jaws. I'm not turning that face or, a little tenon that's even a slight bit smaller. I'm just sticking a round piece of wood in the jaws.
Yeah.
I'm with you. And it's bottomed out at the bottom of the jaws. And I've held things by the ends of those jaws, those bits that are down inside the chuck, not by the jaws themselves, but by the little bits on the inside.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and
However, what is
the
that,
more you
3/4 inch
turn-
radius or whatever?
you're going to stay on your tailstock as long as you can,
Right.
Anyway, I just want to throw it out, guys.
Good food for thought. Real good food for thought.